A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Hey, welcome back, Bomb Squad. Today we are talking about the question that haunts almost every left behind spouse, and that is, will they ever come back? Will they come back as I knew them? Will they come back as somebody different? Will they even come back? We don't know. And especially when they don't just leave, but they vanish. When they rewrite their identity, move in with an affair partner, get engaged, or declare their old life totally dead. And that's exactly what happened in my situation. My ex is a total vanisher. He left everything here for the most part. His stuff's still around. He left all kinds of, even letters from his deceased dad that you would think he'd want. He left family heirlooms. He just vanished. So anyway, that is what we're going to talk about today. We are going to break down the type of MLCers that return, the ones who almost never do, the psychology behind vanishing, the real world odds of them returning, and what this means for you and your kids going forward. So here we go, you guys. All right, not all crisis behavior is the same. There are 3 primary MLC behavior patterns. The clinging boomerangs, as they're often called, those have the highest return rate. Then we've got oscillators who come back and forth, push, pull, reconnect and disappear, reconnect, disappear. Their return rate is sort of average. And then we've got the vanishers. They cut off their family, they replace their identity, move in with the AP, they go silent, they get engaged, they get married. The return rate on them tends to be sort of the lowest. Not zero, but lower than the clinging boomerangs. And just know, the vanishers are not running from you. They're just running from themselves. They typically have the worst midlife crisis mentality, if you can call it that. They burn down every bridge to escape the shame, the failure, the imploding identity that they never developed. They are probably psychologically the most distraught. And that's how they become the vanisher. So, a vanisher, they cannot face their collapse. They cannot face the spouse who witnessed it. They cannot tolerate accountability. They cannot see their past without shame. They cannot re-enter the life that exposes their emotional immaturity. And this is why so many refer to the vanishers as cowards, because to a lot of people, it looks like they're a coward, but just know, it's not that they're choosing to be cowardly, but mental health wise, they just cannot face anything more than whatever they can do at the moment. They disappear, not because they don't feel anything, but because they actually feel too much and they don't have the emotional muscles to survive it. A vanisher's survival instinct becomes, I'm just going to erase everything that reminds me of my old self, including the people who love them the most. And no, the affair partner relationship isn't love. It's usually the furthest thing from that. It's just identity refuge. When an MLCer latches onto an affair partner, and I mean, they do latch on, and you can look at photographs and see them in public, and it's almost like the affair partner is their lifeline. Uh, it's sad and scary, sort of at the same time, but it's probably more sad. But the MLCer latches onto an affair partner, it rarely because of passion, chemistry, soulmates, or destiny, but it's an escape. The affair partner becomes their new identity, the emotional anesthetic, the fantasy, you guys, the mirror of the false self. And in many cases, an affair partner is somebody who was familiar to them, a person who's low obligation, emotionally easy, a pre-made life that your ex can just crawl into. That person, the affair partner, homewrecker, was not chosen out of love. They were chosen because they made vanishing easy and immediate. And what happens when you have kids and you've got a vanisher? Well, your kids might expect long cycles of silence from that parent, awkward, shallow interactions, inconsistency, uh, guilt driven contact, sudden withdrawals, unpredictable emotional behavior. But when the crisis eventually burns out, because they all burn out, then your kids might see remorse, attempts at reconnection, emotional fragility, loneliness, shame, identity confusion, attempts to rewrite history, attempts to try to explain things, and requests for sympathy. And just know your spouse will likely go to the kids way before they come back to you because there's less shame, less intimacy, and less emotional accountability with children. But just know that reconnection may be slow, halting, and incomplete. Vanisher MLCers are like ghosts. They leave their old life behind and they haunt the world, pretending that the past never existed. But you know what? Ghosts eventually get tired. The fantasy world cracks. The affair partner gets old. The dopamine fades. Real life catches up. The emotional void returns. The trauma they were running from wakes up again. And the person they became, the false self, becomes unlivable. If that's what happened with your spouse, just know you didn't lose them to another person. You lost to your spouse's unhealed trauma. You lost to the childhood they never recovered from. You lost to a collapse that had nothing to do with you. You didn't fail. They did. And someday, when the dust finally settles, you will be the one who rebuilt your life. They will be the one standing in the ruins of theirs. And shockingly, you guys, this is probably one of the most upsetting thing for the kids. Your spouse now prioritizes the affair partner's family. Your kids will be low tier unless they serve his fantasy identity. He will not be the father they remember. MLC rewrites personality. They may say, oh my God, mom, dad is so weird. He's not dad. He's robotic. He's avoidant. He's fake. They are right. And he will likely choose the affair partner's kids over his own, and that's not because he prefers them. Far from it, but because they don't hold emotional truth for him. Your kids are like mirrors. Her kids, his or her kids, are simply props. He may try to justify or defend the affair partner as a new family, especially if he feels your kids disapprove, because that fuels shame, which fuels deeper crisis. Your kids may get breadcrumb contact, like occasional texts, holiday appearance, random superficial gifts, a birthday nod, but nothing deep. But when he starts to emerge years later, that's when your kids will be the first people he tries to reconnect with. Not you, but them. And just know your kids will emotionally align with you in the long run because you're stable, you're consistent, you're emotionally available. You didn't abandon them. They witnessed his collapse. They see you. They see who you are now, and they see who he is now. The parent who stays becomes the emotional lighthouse for the kids. One thing I've got for the vanishers, I've got a little like staging. So like stages years 1 to 3 before the bomb drop, and you don't see this happening, but their inner world is already collapsing. Okay, guys, sit there and think back on your little timeline. The 1 to 3 years before bomb drop, you might have noticed identity confusion, feeling trapped, suppressed resentment, emotional numbness, secret self-loathing. The shame from childhood was resurfacing, unfinished trauma boiling underground. And this stage happens in silence. They don't talk, they don't seek help, they just shut down. This is the fault line getting ready to erupt. Second stage, which is really bomb drop or month 0, I guess you could call it. This is the moment the crisis breaks the surface. Behaviors here are shocking accusations, rewriting marital history, blaming the spouse, a sudden personality shift, cold robotic detachment, shark eyes, impulsive choices, and then the little thing, what is it they say? I've been unhappy for years. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And this is not conscious evil, you guys. It's a psychological escape. This is where their identity collapses, so they flee the self. They have no choice. It is just uncontrollable. And I saw that firsthand. My spouse tried to control it, but he couldn't. It was just uncontrollable for him. And it's really sad and scary. Then you've got the actual vanish. We'll say this is stage 3. The true vanisher behavior emerges. They cut ties, they block communication, avoid the children, they disappear from friend groups, they hide behind the affair partner. They suddenly move out, they isolate from responsibility, they totally abandon financial duties. They start to act like a stranger. This is where the false self is born. Then we have stage 4, the affair partner fusion or identity replacement. And this is typically like months 6 to 24. So we had 0 to 3 years was before the bomb drop. Then we have the bomb drop, which was month 0. Then the vanishing part, which is months 1 to 6. And then in months 6 to 24, you've got an affair partner that becomes the security blanket, the emotional anesthetic, the new identity creator. It's their way of avoiding shame, and it's a shield from the past. An affair partner is typically emotionally low risk for them. They come through a familiar social circle. They give your spouse a ready-made new life. They certainly don't require depth, and they certainly don't require accountability. This is also the stage where engagements often happen, and not because of love, but because they're doubling down on the illusion. They have to make it seem like they have a real family. Then we have years 2 to 5 after the bomb drop, and that is the fantasy starts to plateau. This is where the vanisher stabilizes, but only on the surface. Everything looks calm. Everything looks happy. Everything looks settled. But inside, emotional numbness, buried shame, unresolved trauma, dissociation, that inner emptiness, identity confusion continues, very fragile ego, and denial. And you guys, this stage, it can last years and years. Many left behind spouses confuse this part with Oh, he's so happy now. He looks great. He's probably, he's getting along great. But he's not. He is checked out. It's really sad. Then we've got years 3 to 6. Little fractures begin. Life events that crack that fantasy that they have going on. Little triggers like aging, health scares, friction with that lovely affair partner, financial strain, the affair partner's true personality finally showing, pressure from the affair partner's family, guilt about children, loss of novelty, exhaustion from maintaining the lie, and seeing you succeed. And this is where the internal war begins. He won't return at this point, but he will unravel. And that unraveling leads to the real emergence stage. It happens slowly, it happens alone, and painfully. Their persona collapses. The new life fantasy collapses. The affair partner bond collapses. The whole hero story they built up collapses. The illusions and the emotional numbing collapses. And what returns at this point? And you guys, we're talking 3 to 9 years in, you guys. What returns? Remorse, guilt, fear, regret, clarity, and loneliness. And this is where your kids may see him reappear in small, fragile ways. They might apologize vaguely, reconnect inconsistently, seek small moments of contact, express sadness, cry, appear lost, and have quiet breakdowns. You guys, this stage is heartbreaking for them. It's also the first time they are truly human again in a very long time. Imagine that. In years 7 to 15, and I know you guys are rolling your eyes at like, what, 15 years? But it, yes, and nobody has a timeline for this. So I'm just generalizing when I say these things, but anywhere from 7 to more years, there's that quiet regret and sadly late life realization because it's been a long time. And this is the stage almost all vanishers eventually hit. They wake up, they see the damage, they realize what they lost, they see the affair partner clearly, they recognize the fantasy is dead, they feel abandoned by their own choices, they feel the emptiness, and they know they can't undo the years of destruction. And you guys, this is where you wonder, well, will he come back to me then? At 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years later? Um, Sometimes yes, but just know it it is so difficult for them. They are so ashamed. They are still emotionally underdeveloped, and it is so difficult for them to face the person who witnessed their collapse. They will get back in touch with the kids. They will regret everything, but it's so difficult. Years later, after health changes, aging, or life losses, your spouse will look back on the marriage, look back on the children, look back on what they destroyed, question the affair partner relationship. They will feel deep remorse. They'll blame the affair partner for letting all this happen. They'll try to rewrite history once again. Oftentimes, they become spiritual or introspective and they wish things had gone differently. And this is where the emotional pain finally hits him full force. But by then, you guys, you're already healed. Your life has evolved. You've grown. And he's living in the ruins of decisions that he made during his psychological collapse. That sadly is allowed legally and financially because it's not recognized for the psychological collapse that it is. Many MLCers have told us that during towards the end of their stage when they're starting to see things clearly, they say the affair partner isn't who they projected. The novelty's over, dopamine's gone. Their life became smaller, darker, and they felt like it's so much harder to make any type of effort in life. The escape didn't fix the pain they were in. It just gave them a different type of pain. They also come back to say the affair partner was not their soulmate, but just an anesthetic. It was a person that didn't challenge them, didn't expose them, and didn't reflect their shame back at them. They were the perfect partner for a man or woman who was dissolving. And their connection was not based on intimacy or anything like a normal relationship. It was just trauma bonding, fantasy merging, codependency, avoidance, emotional escapism, and frankly, a relationship built on sand. They also say that the adult children will start seeing cracks before the affair partner does, which is crazy. But that's because the kids know the real spouse. They can spot the mask, the dissociation, the emotional absence, the cognitive decline, the confusion, the lack of spark, the hollowness. So one thing we see with also the MLCers that come out of their crisis tell us that they started to feel like the affair partner became too dependent on them, too emotional, very draining, um, and just needing like 24/7 emotional stabilization. And those little annoyances at first eventually become huge because the person in MLC becomes even more trapped, more suffocated, more overwhelmed, resentful, guilty, and ashamed. And this resentment is the beginning of the psychological unraveling. When healthy, your spouse was used to a normal adult relationship, and adults in stable, emotionally mature relationships don't need performative vows, childish declarations, cartoon level displays, or constant public reassurance. When you see lots of posting online of "we're going to be together forever," it's not romance. It's insecurity wearing glitter. This is an emotional age of about 13 years old, not a 40 or 50-year-old adult person. And it shows they have magical thinking, fantasy bonding, lack of emotional grounding, inability to understand permanence, and a fairy tale replacement for actual intimacy. It's not love, it's emotional pretend play. And this is a known marker of fear based attachment. When someone constantly announces, "Oh, I love them so much. Oh, we're going to be together forever," it's because they feel threatened, insecure, unstable, afraid of abandonment, terrified that their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife will leave. And they're very aware that the relationship is fragile. And the more insecure they feel, the more they post those public forever claims all over social media or wherever. It's compensation, you guys. It's, "Hey, see, we're real. Look, everyone, we're real," right? Um, People in secure relationships, they don't act like that. You don't need a PR campaign for a normal relationship. That, you guys, is a trauma-based attempt to glue their MLCer in place. It's common in emotionally dependent individuals, borderline personality individuals, people who fear abandonment, individuals with unstable relationship histories, and those who rely on fantasy rather than emotional intimacy. It is psychological duct tape. It's not connection or commitment. It's not love. It's fear. When you see adults write stuff like, "my forever love," with hearts, 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 or forever, or always as, or he's mine forever, it's almost always because the person senses that their partner is pulling away. The affair partner starts to sense emotional distance. They can tell resentment's growing. They can sense instability increasing. They know there's cracks forming, and their fear of abandonment is on the increase. They know the fantasy is fading, but they can't articulate it. And you know what's so funny? The more they post those things like, "we're in love forever," the little childish, things, the more the MLCer feels trapped, especially men in midlife crisis and especially vanishers. They hate being emotionally cornered. Those public forever posts embarrass them, suffocate them, It adds pressure, it traps them, it triggers guilt, it increases resentment, it makes them feel owned and worsens the internal collapse. And they won't say it, but inside, they are suffocating every time their affair partner does stuff like that. And you want the raw truth, you guys? Men deep in MLC prefer women who demand nothing. That BPD style clinginess feels like they're drowning. That's like somebody putting emotional handcuffs on them every time she posts things like that. Forever is not a love story, it's a countdown clock. Adults who are secure don't scream about forever. People who are terrified of losing something do. In these dynamics, the more desperate the affair partner gets, the closer the collapse becomes. MLC vanishers fall hardest when the affair partner clings, panics, posts those forever things, overshares, acts childish, traps them publicly, demands a fantasy that he can't maintain. That affair partner's desperation becomes the final shove towards collapse. And that is a predictable psychological unraveling. And it follows a really clear pattern with the affair partner, who is somebody who's emotionally immature. And actually, the more they sense distance, the more they try to force permanence through public displays. Those posts you see on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, those posts are not love, they are panic. And as he deteriorates emotionally, she deteriorates behaviorally. She'll start checking his phone even more, demanding reassurance, asking where he is, calling him repeatedly, monitoring his moods, wanting constant attention, asking him not to talk to female coworkers. That affair partner will question everything. Their jealousy and fear is off the charts. They try to prevent him from having time alone. Her panic equals a tightening grip. And vanishing MLCers hate being gripped like nothing else. So he withdraws even more. And this is when her emotional outbursts become more volatile. This is where somebody who might have BPD traits really activate. Outbursts will go like this: love, fear, rage, love, fear, rage. Crying, screaming, accusations, dramatic declarations like, why are you pulling away? I love you forever, but you don't love me anymore. Why are you leaving me? Don't you want me? And she will swing between worship and attack. And this will wear him down psychologically. We already know this person in MLC can barely function as it is. And this is just more weight, more weight, more weight on top of what they're already dealing with. The emotional regression of the affair partner turns up as tantrums, sulking, pouting, shutting down, needing constant attention, childish speech patterns, and dramatic love declarations. Meanwhile, the MLCer feels like he's caring for a fragile, panicked toddler, certainly not a partner in life. And this begins the emotional suffocation phase. She will try to lock in the relationship ever more tightly, pressuring them to get married, pressuring to secure her status, pressuring to prove loyalty to her, pressure to make big public declarations, pressure to cut off his kids, and pressure to isolate him further. She believes if she locks it down, he won't leave. But you know what, you guys? This accelerates his burnout. She will then become the main trigger for his next collapse. It's not his job. It's not turning 60. It's not aging. It's not losing his old life. It's her emotional weight that's now becoming too heavy for him to hold. Her panic is his exhaustion. Her clinginess is his resentment. Her insecurity is his shame. And her meltdowns, man, those become his final collapse. And this dynamic always, always, always leads to emotional implosion for vanishing MLCers. And it's crazy, you guys, because when a midlife crisiser explodes his life and runs to someone new, everyone assumes it's a love story, but it isn't. It never is. What the MLCer thinks he's running toward, but what he's actually running from, and why the affair partner becomes the last domino that topples his entire false identity, that is what happens. It's so sad, you guys. The MLCer thinks he's running toward something great, but what he's actually running from is himself. And the affair partner ends up becoming the last domino that topples his entire false identity. That affair partner wasn't chosen because they're special. They're chosen because they were available, easy, unchallenging, emotionally chaotic enough to distract them from themselves. And what if they've made it down the aisle to marriage? Well, MLC affair partner marriages have extremely low survival rates. And not because the affair partner leaves, but because the MLCer becomes emotionally dead, resentful, depressed, avoidant, detaches. They collapse internally, they become fragile and unstable, and they eventually wake up to the damage that they caused. And when he awakens, he is in shock. What did I do? How did I get here? Who is this woman? And where is my real life? You guys, marriage does not prevent that collapse. Marriage exposes the collapse. And that late life regret will be severe. The regret is already guaranteed. Marriage only makes it so much harder because one day he'll be older, sicker, exhausted, lonely inside, disconnected from his kids, trapped with someone who cannot emotionally support him, and living with consequences that he cannot undo. And here's the real deal, you guys. If they marry, it won't make him more stable. It will make him more fragile. It won't make her feel more secure. It will make her feel more panicked. It won't unite them. It will bind them into a dysfunctional trauma bubble like you've never seen. And it won't save the relationship. It'll actually accelerate the end of the fantasy. Marriage doesn't fix midlife crisis. It just cements the damage and it fast tracks the collapse. When they get married, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, my ex doesn't think about me at all. Well, that is not true at all. MLC vanishers try to erase the past, but the past is the only real version of themselves they ever had. You are actually the witness to his life, the mirror of his identity, the emotional anchor. You are the person who knew him before the collapse, the person he shared 20, 30, 40 years with, and the only adult relationship he ever truly had. Think about that, you guys. That was the real self before the collapse of the self. And you do not disappear from a psyche like that, even if they try to bury you. Your ex-spouse thinks of you because you represent his former self. He can't escape you without escaping himself. And that's why vanishers go so extreme, because they're not running from the spouse, they're running from their own reflection. And based on MLC vanishers, they have different, there's the shame-based thoughts, and these hit when his fantasy life feels heavy. Thoughts like, I can't face her, I ruined everything, she didn't deserve this, I failed, she was so good to me, I destroyed the one stable part of my life. And he'll never say these things out loud, but shame lies underneath vanishers like a heartbeat. Then they have avoidance thoughts, and these appear when he starts to feel any guilt. He'll shut down and tell himself not to think about it. Life is over. Keep moving forward. You can't go back. Just forget about it. Those thoughts are defense mechanisms. Obviously, they're not truth, but they're emotional anesthesia. And then he's got comparison thoughts, even if he tries to avoid them. And that's going to be your stability versus the affair partner's instability, your maturity versus the affair partner's childlike behavior, your independence versus her dependence, your communication versus her immaturity. He won't consciously think, oh, my wife was so much better, but he will think, this is not the same. This doesn't feel right. Why is this relationship so difficult, so hard, so exhausting? Why does she even act like this? This is not what I imagined or signed up for. He compares all this stuff subconsciously, guys. He can't resist it. 20, 30 years creates a blueprint, and she can't match it no matter what. Even in vanishers, this always shows up. During holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, quiet nights, stress, fights with the affair partner, moments of exhaustion. And when he sees someone who reminds him of you, and when he realizes how much he's lost, that's when he thinks about your home, your routines, the safety of you, the comfort, the partnership, the sense of humor, the shared language, the shared memories, the decades of life you built. These are not romantic thoughts, they are identity thoughts. And he starts to think, damn, that was my life. That was my person. How did I lose that? What happened to me? And you guys, these thoughts cut deeply. So then he runs harder. And these are thoughts he can't escape as he deteriorates into, why did I do this? What happened to me? I made a terrible mistake. I missed that life. I wasn't thinking clearly. And those thoughts, they scare him, as they would anybody. They remind him of the man he used to be. They remind him he abandoned himself, not just you. And he pushes those thoughts down quickly because they trigger collapse. And you wonder, why doesn't he reach out even when he thinks of you? Because thinking of you equals shame, and shame equals collapse. And collapse is the thing he fears the most. He avoids contact because you knew his real identity, you witnessed his downfall, you reflect the truth, you trigger accountability, that's for sure. And he associates you with the person that he abandoned, and he cannot face who he became. And it's not because he doesn't think of you, it's because he can't tolerate the feelings that thinking of you brings. And what he thinks now, while living with an affair partner, how he's exhausted. It's not what he thought it would be. Why is she so needy and childish? Well, why does he feel nothing? Why can't he get his life together? And when he compares who he was with you versus who he is now, the thoughts get darker. You guys, he never says them. He can't say them, but he feels them. And you need to know that. Because in late stage MLC, all vanishers think, I miss my old life. I miss the person who knew me. I miss the stability, my kids. I miss the version of me that she saw. I never meant to hurt her, and I don't know how to undo this. Because how can they? And you guys, this is universal. Even the ones who never return, even the ones who stay with the affair partner, even the ones who never say a word, because you are the vault of his entire adult identity. And humans always return psychologically to the place they fell from. So just know, he thinks of you often, way more often than he wants to, way more often than he admits to himself even. Certainly way more often than the affair partner knows about. And sadly, more often than his pride can handle. But what does he feel when he thinks of you? He doesn't feel anger, resentment, and indifference. He feels shame, loss, regret, fear, nostalgia, comparison, identity death, and, you guys, a grief that he can't process. And I know, for all my bomb squad, you know what that grief is like. He thinks about you because you are the stable, real part of his life. She's the escape, you are the home. And a man can pretend to run forever, but he can never erase the person who knew the real him before the collapse. So there you have it, guys. If you needed the truth tonight, you have it. They do think of us. They think of us more than they can handle. And they think of us because we were the last real version of the person they lost. You were not the problem, their crisis was. And you are simply the reflection of the man or woman that abandoned you, the version of himself or herself that they just can't look at yet. So stay strong, Bomb Squad. Truth first, healing always. Stay strong out there and stay awesome and stay authentically you. Thanks for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. I'll see you soon in our next episode. Hey, some resources that are available for you guys. are thewifeexpert.com. That's Lori McDermott over there at thewifeexpert.com. She also has a new app out. There's tons of videos that can give you all kinds of information on no matter where you are on your MLC journey or trying to reconcile with your spouse. So check out thewifeexpert.com. And if you're not sure if your spouse or yourself is in maybe approaching or in a midlife crisis, be sure to check out Kenda Root's quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, that's a midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. That's a quick little 2-minute quiz. It's free. So check that out as well. We have a ton of resources out there for you guys. So check them out. Thanks. You guys, forward moving spouses, you are not alone. Left behind spouses, you are not alone. Those in crisis, you are certainly not alone. This is just crazy how epidemic this has become. I have a waiting list now of people from around the world that I'm trying to get to. And if you've been through a midlife crisis or been impacted by someone else's and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Hang in there, you guys. I will get to all of you. Please reach out to me at mlcbombdrop@gmail.com and visit us on Facebook and Instagram, MLC Bomb Drop. And just remember, your voice matters. Your story could be the one that helps someone else feel seen. It could help someone else feel heard. And it will help somebody else feel understood. You are not alone, no matter where you are in your journey. If the bomb was just dropped, the earthquake just happened, if you are 7 or 8 years in and you're coming out of starting to wake up and awaken to this, you are not alone. It's sad that this is epidemic, but we're here to provide support. So until next time, take care and live authentically each and every day. Thanks again, you guys.